Good evening, Bahama Health family and friends. As we get into another Doc Talk session, before we begin, we have a few prizes we want to give away. So I have a few questions, and the first person to submit the answer in the chat will win a prize. Once you are a winner, please send your name and telephone contact directly to me in the chat so that we can connect for you to collect your prize. So our first question for this afternoon. Hello? Did anyone hear me?
We can hear you now.
You didn't hear me? Oh, I am so sorry. I will repeat the question. As I've said before, you can place your answers to the question in the chat, and the first person to respond will be the winner. And once you are, we ask you to place your name and your telephone contact in the chat directly to me so that we can connect for you to collect your prize. So the first question, the word menopause, where was it originated? Was it an American, Bahamian, French, German, Canadian, or Greek word? Please share your answer in the chat. Way to go, Crystal. It is a Greek word, yes. Our second question. What is the definition of menopause? Place it in the chat. I'm waiting. I have several answers, but I'm going to go. I have two answers. I can give the two prizes because they came in at the same time. So there is one from Crystal and one from Capron. They both came in at 5:57, and it says complete absence of menstruation or end of the menstrual cycle. So both answers I will accept. Thank you. Next question. What is the name of Miss Patrice Lockhart's practice? What is the name of her practice? We've had some slides rolling all before the presentation started. So if you were paying attention, it was right there, right in front of you. Crystal, you seem to be paying full attention. Whoa. Oh, wow. Way to go, Crystal. 3 in a row. Next question. Are there any support groups for menopause locally? And if yes, please provide the name if you know it. Do 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 do. Still no answer. And Miss Monique Curtis, you're not correct. We need the name. And that will complete the question answer. No. Come on, we'll get some more help. We'll get some more answers in here. Can I repeat the question? Are there any support groups for menopause locally? Going once? Going twice? Up? No, I'm so sorry. Gone. Irene Pintard. Menopause survival care. Yes, we have one last winner in the house. So that brings me to the end of my trivia. I will reach out to those persons who are winners. Please put your name and your telephone contact in the chat so that I can contact you. That's Ms. Capron and Ms. Crystal. Thank you all. And now I turn this session over to our team to proceed. Thank you. Have a good evening. Way to go. Great winners.
Good evening, everyone. I am Nurse Monroe, and on behalf of Mrs. Charlene Rogers, our Vice President, the DocTalk Committee, and the rest of our team here at Bahama Health, it is with great pleasure that we welcome you to another DocTalk session entitled What Everyone Needs to Know About Menopause. In our society, we have taboo topics of things we don't openly discuss, and menopause is definitely one of them. Although it's a sensitive topic of discussion, it resonates with many women throughout our nation, as I'm sure we have all encountered someone who has been affected by the change or has experienced a personal summer. We are excited and hopeful that this session will provide a forum that empowers you to express yourselves openly, and also that the information imparted here today will encourage you to explore the support options available to assist with coping and to improve your well-being, as every woman at any age needs to know about menopause. I will now invite Ms. Aaliyah Adderley to introduce our dynamic speaker for this evening.
Good evening. Patrice Lockhart is certified with Menopause Movement in the UK and is one of few Black menopause coaches globally and the first within the Caribbean. Her interest in health and wellness began over 25 years ago, and her passion is to help people achieve their good health goals. Menopause hit Patrice like a tsunami without a warning. After experiencing 8 years of tumultuous menopausal symptoms, and visiting doctors but not getting answers, Patrice began studying the topic of menopause, as well as conducting interviews and informal surveys in search of more information. In January 2021, after much planning, Patrice and a friend co-hosted Menopause Dialogue, a web television show focused on helping women understand menopause. As a menopause coach, Patrice offers guidance, support, information, and tools to help women navigate menopause. She's an advocate for creating a menopause-friendly workplace environment through education, seminars, and workshops. She is listed in a global directory of menopause health practitioners, and she has a private Facebook menopause support group called Menopause Survival Care that women can request to join. Welcome, Ms. Patrice Lockhart.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for having me here. And like was said, I am Patrice Lockhart, and I am on a mission. My mission, can everybody hear me? You can hear me? Okay. I'm on a mission. My mission is to help the Bahamian woman, the woman in this country, be educated about menopause, and not just menopausal women, the women who are in menopause and the women who are about to go into that transition. Now, let me go. I'm going to take you directly into my presentation. Just, okay, I'm going to share my screen with you in a moment. Can everybody see my screen? Okay.
It's up. Yeah. But yeah, so
Okay, it's up. You can see my screen.
we can
Okay.
see your screen.
Try a
Just need to run the,
slideshow
yeah.
from the beginning. Okay. Okay. Sometimes it's a little bit slow in coming up. I think that's my internet. But let me just go on and tell you a bit while my screen comes up. After all that rehearsing, the screen still, oh, wow. Okay, I will just proceed until my screen comes up. One of the reasons why I entered the menopausal, I decided to become a menopause practitioner, is because when I was going through my experience, I couldn't find the help in our country that I needed. Let me try this
Ms. Walker,
again
would you
with
like
my
for me to
screen.
share the presentation for you?
Yes, because for whatever reason, it literally has stopped.
Okay, not a problem. Allow me to share the screen and I'll put your presentation up for you. 1 second.
I am so sorry about that, but let me give you more about myself and why I am a menopause health practitioner. When I went into menopause, literally, I had no clue what was going on. I went into menopause, and for one whole year, I was having issues sleeping. Then it went into 6 weeks of me sleeping for under 1 hour. And when I would close my eyes to for this under an hour, my brain just began acting crazy. It looked like a black and white television screen, the old screen where you see the black and white lines coming across. This would happen. And then I would see bits and pieces like a movie, then the black and white screen. And this happened for the entire 6 weeks. Then I went into day, then night, then day, then another day, and another night. And I did not get a wink of sleep. I was going through a time in my life where I was dealing with a lot of rejection, and a family member literally had to come and take me because I was dealing with, I was putting on weight, I couldn't sleep, I was dealing with anxiety, yet still nothing was happening. Can you proceed? Can you bring it to menopause, a new beginning, please? Keep going, keep going. Let's keep going past the testimonials. Okay, keep going. Now, I want to begin with a little history on menopause, and I was quite tickled when I heard you did something on it. And I'm doing this because men approach me and ask me, why is it that men have to be on pause during this time in a woman's life? And I explained to many men that no, listen, in 1821, a French physician coined the term menopause. And medical interest in menopause didn't increase until the 19th century. And in fact, many women were put in mental asylums. But in the 1930s, menopause was looked at as a disease. And do you know what? If you were a menopausal woman in the 1930s, what they gave you? Testicular juice and crushed ovaries of animals. How many of you would have loved to be during that time? But that was what was given to women during that time. And then in the 1970s was when the medicalization of menopause became a thing, and HRT, hormone replacement and therapy, etc., was a thing. Next slide, please. Now, here's some facts. 99% of the women in this country, they enter the menopausal transition unaware, unprepared, and untooled to deal with the changes and the symptoms that their bodies will go through. It hits women like me like a tsunami. And in fact, menopause affects women on 3 levels: emotionally, mentally, and physically. And each year in our country, we have over 3,000 women that enter the menopausal transition. And I have this figure because of our graduation rates every year. And 3,000 is just the low end of how many women enter menopause every year in our country. And 9%, 9 out of every 10 Bahamian woman say that her mother did not speak to her about menopause. I got this fact through my menopause survival care, I have a private Facebook menopausal group. And I've been mentoring these women for over about a year and a half now. And these women are from the Bahamas, they're from the USA, the UK, Canada, Dubai, Africa, Philippines. I'm seeing women in my group from all over the world. And I have been mentoring them through their phase for the past year and a half. And one of the things I say that menopause doesn't care where you are, where you live. Menopause happens to all of us. And before my group was open to women internationally, the Bahamian woman was who was my target audience only. And I had a questionnaire and that women had to answer when they the group. And all of the women I asked, the question was, did your mother tell you about menopause? And 9 out of 10 of them, 9.99% said no, their mothers did not tell them about menopause. Can we have the next slide, please? Menopause, for many in our culture, is a taboo subject. When I often tell women, menopause is not a disease. It is a natural transition in a woman's life. It is not a medical condition. Just how you came into this world as a little baby, then you moved on to being a toddler, then you moved into your child, and then your teenager, adolescence, etc. A part of every woman's chapter in her life, if she gets to go into 40 and beyond, is menopause. Now, excuse me, I'm going to use, I see Miss Charlene Rogers is here, and I'm going to use you since you're VP. I'm going to use you. Now, every woman on this webinar right now, when you came into this world as a little girl, you came with your basket of eggs. Now, Miss Charlene Rogers also came as a baby with a basket of eggs. In fact, as little girls, we come with about 33 years worth of eggs. Now, when Miss Rogers got to puberty, there was a hormone that kicked in her ovaries that said to her, okay, Charlene, now you came into this world with all of these eggs. There is no way I'm going to let you die and go to heaven, go back to God with all of these eggs. You need my help. Now, this estrogen is what makes us female. It's called estradiol. Somebody type estradiol because you need to remember this. Estradiol. Now, estradiol said to Charlene, okay, Charlene, you got all these eggs. I'm going to help you. But I'm only going to help you use these eggs for a certain amount of time. And when your basket of eggs begin to lower, I'm going to pack my bags and I'm going to begin to leave. Now, estradiol is just like us women, very dramatic, full of drama. So when she decides to start leaving, she does not leave. You're right, Monique Curtis, estradiol. She does not, when she decides to leave, she's going to leave with a lot of drama. And during this time that she decides to leave, it's called menopause. Now, I tell women, no woman should enter the menopausal transition. It's like marriage. No woman should enter marriage unprepared and unadvised. Because when you enter this is a commitment that is being made. And estradiol is in marriage is between a man and a woman. With menopause, it's between a woman and her estrogen, a hormone called estradiol. Now, estradiol said, I'm going to be with you. I'm going to be faithful to you. Every month, I'm going to cause you to have a period. And so estradiol kicks in her work during what's called puberty. Puberty is the beginning of when the body is getting ready for reproduction. So that's when Charlene began to have breasts. She began to have hair under her arms. She began her shape began to change, and each month she began to have what's called a period. Now, at the end of this cycle, puberty, at the end of that cycle is called menopause. Menopause is the opposite of puberty. Puberty is when a woman's body is getting ready for reproduction. Menopause is when it gets ready to shut down. Now, can I have the next slide, please? Now, I just want to give you a little science. And this is the most science I'm going to do. It's what are hormones. Now, every woman on this webinar, you need to pay attention. Most of us, we don't know. We know how to dress these bodies and look good, but when it comes to what's going on, we don't have a clue. Every woman on this chat, you have hormones, and we sure do have some males. Let me just say that. Now, hormones are big players in your body. Hormones are chemical messages, and they send messages through your bloodstream, giving directives as to what to do, what not to do. Okay, they have a lot of power. Let's have the next slide. Now, what is menopause? And somebody so rightly said it. First of all, again, menopause is a natural transition in a woman's life. I have to repeat that. I have to repeat that. Can you hear me? I saw something go off with my, can you still hear me? Okay. Menopause, like I said, is a natural transition in a woman's life. It's that time when she ceases from being able to reproduce. Nothing is wrong with you when you stop reproducing. We have a cultural taboo, and that I want to touch because women are so embarrassed. There are so many women because our culture, we have some men who think once a woman is no longer able to have children, one radio interview, male interviewer said she's barren. And I had to stop him in his track. No, a woman is not barren when she is finished using her eggs. She is finished with that part of her life. And we have, unfortunately, some cultural biases where some men say, you're finished. They only want younger women. But I want to say to women here, there is no shame. It is a new chapter in your life. There is nothing to be embarrassed about. In fact, men go through their own transition called andropause, but that's another topic for another time. Can I have the next slide, please? There are 3 stages of menopause that you need to be aware of. The first stage is called perimenopause. Perimenopause begins 8 to 10 years before a woman stops bleeding. Most women don't even know when their bodies go into this transition. And that's when your level of eggs really begin to decrease. And so your hormonal levels go up and down. So today a woman her hormone levels would be here. Then it's here the next day, then it's here. And it can be all over the place. And that's when women begin to have hormonal symptoms. Now, let me just say here, normally and naturally, a woman's body goes into this menopausal transition around early 40s. And most women don't know when it begins. Like for me, when I did not even know when my body went into the menopausal transition until I actually was studying menopause and going through, the classes with our lecturers, etc. I remembered in my early 40s, my period, all my life, it was always 3 days. And then my period would always come at the beginning of the month. And then I remember it began to change and come to the middle. It came to the middle of the month. And I thought that was strange, but that was the only thing. What I didn't know was my body had kicked in to the transition because I was on the last set of my eggs. And most women don't know. Now, it is only when a lot of women, when they get into the latter part of perimenopause, that they begin to have the symptoms, and that's when they wake up to what's going on. And a lot of times for women that happens mid 40s going beyond. And I'm not saying it can't happen before. Now, if a woman, let me just say here, if a woman goes into menopause before 40, that's early menopause, and usually there's something wrong. She has POS, polycystic, something's wrong with her ovaries. Sometimes women have a hysterectomy, partial hysterectomy. Sometimes women have cancer treatment. There's a number of things. So ovaries aren't working. But normally you will begin in your 40s. The stage of menopause only happens, menopause is actually one day. That only happens after you've stopped bleeding for 12 full months. And that happens generally between 51 and 58. I've been finding two sets of women in this country. I find a lot of women ending between 51 and 53, 54. And there's another group ending around 48, 49. Interestingly enough, the one data shows Black women in America and Latinos tend to end around 49. So I'm seeing two groups of women in our country as my clients, as I deal with them, as they they go into menopause. Now, postmenopause is those years afterwards when a woman's body no longer has estrogen and her brain, her, her bones, most women globally, the menopause 65. Now, I can tell you what I've been finding since I've been practicing since last year. I've been finding that there are a lot of women in their late 60s and 70s that I've had to work with to help them so that they can get past the menopausal symptoms. What has happened was a lot of women, I've had clients come to me, had menopausal symptoms for 17, 20 years, have said to me, I've been to all the doctors here, I've been to doctors in the US, and I'm still dealing with them. And I've been able to work with them, put them on protocols now where these women have no symptoms. One of the saddest things for me to see is bad enough in your 40s and 50s and even early 60s having to deal with menopausal symptoms, but to still be in your 70s, it is a challenge. Can we have the next slide, please? Now, one of the things, yes, somebody stopped bleeding at 65. Yes, I had a couple of women. There's a lady that I know. Well, she passed now at 65 years old. She's from Andros. She still bleeding. When I was in Grand Bahama, there were older who had still been bleeding, and then I learned around 70. Believe it or not, but it does happen. Now, there are over 35 symptoms of menopause. Many women are dealing with menopausal symptoms who have said, oh, I've finished with menstrues or night sweats. And the problem is most women think that menopause is only hot flashes and night sweats. Can I have the next slide, please? I'm going to go through the 35 symptoms plus of menopause, because there are more. And what is happening is there is more and more research, and we are being privy to it as the menopausal health practitioners in the world. And we are the first ones who get these research results as to what's going on. A lot of women experience the hot flashes and night sweats. A lot of women become very fatigued, and they don't even understand that the reason why you're fatigued is directly because of menopause. Now, I'm going to go into some of these as to why, but let me just go through the symptoms. Dizziness. Women, when they're dealing with dizziness, headaches, nausea, your vasomotor system is out of whack because of the support of estradiol to this area, and it's not doing what it's supposed to do. Many women lose their libidos. I have clients who have no more interest in sex because not because they're trying to be difficult. And when I'm dealing with a client and a husband, I have to help the husband to understand it's not because she doesn't want to, but it's something that's happening with her. And I'll go into deeper details in a little bit. There are women who deal with mood change, irritability, hair loss. Many women in their 40s, late 40s, and going into 50s, they have hair loss around this area here and the male pattern baldness. That's because estrogen keeps your hair in its growing phase. And if you don't know what to do, what to put in your body to help your body, you will find that your hair will begin to fall out and thin out. And a lot of people think it's because of the aging process. No, it's directly because of the function that estrogen has on your body, with keeping your hair in its growing phase. A lot of women begin to put on weight right here in the middle section. Estradiol has a lot to do with where you put on weight, and we'll talk a bit about that if we have some time. Heart palpitations, bloating, headaches, tinnitus, that ringing in the ear. That is, I often say in my sessions, and I'm sure, I don't know how many of you deal with that, but that I often say ringing in the ear is from the devil. This year alone, I had ringing in my ears from January for about 5 months. Sometimes I don't always do what I'm supposed to do. And when I don't do what I'm supposed to do, because rest is a big part. I had a session one time about in the air. Half of the room raised their hand and everybody started laughing because it was like, oh, you too? It's like, oh my goodness. We don't understand the connection. Then a lot of women have bladder weakness. Many women are wetting up themselves. Many women come into work in heels and they are wearing pads all day, every day, not because they want to, but because they have bladder weakness. They are wetting up themselves. You sit down in a chair. Many women, they're sitting in a chair. You get up, you smell urine. You lay in your bed, you get up, you smell urine. It's because of a weak bladder. Then some women have the fecal leaking. And I can tell you, I do the sessions, pelvic health floor sessions, and these are smaller sessions with these women who deal with these issues, with the pelvic floor issues, the vaginal dryness, the itching, the burning, that's real. Women deal with the leakages. Some women wet up themselves. A lot of women go into this phase where they can't even make it to the bathroom in time. That's a part of menopause. I had a session where this lady, I put her on a protocol, and in a week, her body responded. And she said to me, I didn't know that there was help for this. She said, I thought this was just a part of aging and I would have this as a problem for the rest of my life. Today, that woman don't have to run to the bathroom anymore. She doesn't wet up herself just before she gets to the bathroom. These are real issues. I have a couple of clients who have to work from home. because they use the bathroom so much and they've had to have doctor's certificate. And these are real. And that's one of the reasons why I'm also big on menopause, going into the workplace and teaching about how menopause affects the workplace. It has been hiding under the radar. And because our managers, the supervisors, and the directors are not informed about it, women are very intimidated. They will not tell their leaders what the reason is or why the reason is. They miss work, all of this. And it's because of menopause, because they feel as though their leaders won't understand. And I can tell you, these are my clients, okay? Women deal with memory lapse, itchy skin, nausea, joint pains. Women get up in the morning and you've been able to bounce out of bed all your life. All of a sudden you have a problem with your back or you have an issue. Welcome to menopause. Women deal with anxiety, brittle nails, digestive issues. When your hormones are out of balance, it has a direct effect on gut. Get their guts back together, because a lot of women deal with the bloating and the constipation, all of this. And once the gut is balanced again, first of all, I have to help them with their hormones to balance, which will affect the gut balance. Women deal with urinary incontinence. Some women wear diapers, literally. They wear diapers, not because they want to, and they're dressed up. And I can tell you, I have the sessions where women get to talk about it because they all have the same issues and it creates marital issues. I had one sad session where a husband was making, just diminished a woman because this was going on. She was leaking. She was literally leaking, not just leaking. She was wetting herself. So she had to wear Pampers, and he lost respect for her. And this is another cultural issue I am big on dealing with. Women deal with low moods, urinary tract infection, postmenopausal women consistently. And there's a reason behind that. Many women have difficulty concentrating. And a lot of my professional clients have such an issue with this. Women who are lawyers, women who are accountants, women who use their brain a lot, they lose their confidence around this time because they're not thinking like they used to. They're not sharp as they used to. They're forgetting. And it is real. I often share my story. I had a meeting one day. I was driving to a meeting, and in the middle on the streets of Nassau, driving to my meeting, I forgot where I was going. I slowed the car down and I was like, oh God, where am I going? Where am I going? Where am I going? For the life of me, I couldn't figure out where I was going. And it was like my brain was in this box trying to get this information, trying to figure out things. And after a while, I was able to figure it out and it came back and I was able to hurry up to get to my meeting. But it was because I had moved from perimenopause to post, into menopause and post. And I needed to now deal with my body in the post-menopause state and put in the phytoestrogen that my body needed to help me focus and etc. Women deal with osteoporosis and the osteopenia, which is in the first stages, emotional changes, depression, aching muscles, tender breasts, heavy periods, skin changes, panic attacks, irregular periods. Women can't sleep. Some women deal with eye issues. Some women, and I had a client the dry eye because of what has happened with menopause. Can I have the next slide, please? I'm going to quickly go through these ones. Now, menopause is not just a reproductive transition. Can I have the next slide, please? It's not just a reproductive transition, it's a transition for a woman's brain. Many women don't understand what is going on and why it's going on. I'm not sure if you're having an issue with showing the next screen. Okay, let me just go on. There is a part of a woman's brain that's responsible for temperature control. It's called the hypothalamus. And this area is responsible for temperature. And the brain gets a wrong signal. The brain gets a signal that the woman is in crisis. And if you remember me earlier talking about hormones, let's slide. If you remember me talking about hormones, I said that hormones are a big player in our body, and all a woman's life from puberty has been helping a woman's brain to function. She's been operating on a full tank of gas all years. And when her estradiol begins to diminish, her tank was helping her brain to function. Like I said, it caused the brain don't get the support that is part of the brain, like I said, that's responsible. Part of the brain gets a signal. The brain sends a signal for all of her blood vessels to open up, and then it rushes blood through, and that's when she gets what's called a hot flash or a now, and it can be in the day or in the night. And I know sometimes with me, my fingers would get burning. I'd be in the food store, any place cold, and literally my hands would turn red because it would burn and hurt. Some women deal with it with their feet. Can I have the next slide, please? But that's what happens with the hypothalamus. I said hippocampus. It's the hypothalamus that this happens to. When this part of the brain isn't getting the help it's been used for, amygdala. The amygdala is a part of the brain that regulates a woman's emotion. If that part of the brain isn't getting, let me just say, the fuel, like gas in a tank, if it's not getting that support that it's been used to getting, things are gonna happen. A woman's mood starts changing. That's why women deal with anxiety, depression, irritability, sadness, lack of motivation, panic attacks, and women even become aggressive. I had a lady, her uncle had to move out of the house because her aunt became very aggressive. His good Christian wife, after all of these years, became a problem. And it wasn't because she was trying to be difficult. That support it's been getting. The next part of our brain, that is the hippocampus part of our brain. It's for our memory, our focus, our concentration. All of these areas is also affected. Women have difficulty thinking. She forgets. Listen here, you can forget names. Listen, it gets crazy during this time. And that's because that part of the brain is affected. Can I have the next slide, please? The next part of a woman's brain that's affected is the stem of the brain. And the stem of the brain is responsible for sleep and wake. So when a woman can't sleep during menopause, it's because that part of the isn't getting the support. The next good news. I not just going to tell you, yes, there's help for heart palpitations, Lilia. We may not have time, but to talk about everything. But my information, we can connect afterwards, and I'll tell you some more about it. In fact, you can use potassium and magnesium. Potassium regulates the heartbeat, because that's what I had to do right away, because I couldn't get any help. Can I have the next slide, please? I did some research, and like I said, because we don't have any research here, any data. I've had to do. I began a lot of research, and I did the slide before that. I did 3 groups of women, Bahamian men. I should say 3 groups of women in the Bahamas. They were from across the Bahamas, and I put them on this product that I have, the chocolate maca and the plain macaroon. And I put them on for 30 days. And for 30 days, before they did it, they filled out a form where they filled out some information where that's able to help me regulate what's going on with the Bahamian woman. So I was able to see how many times women were having hot flashes. All that information has been put into the computer bank. And so for 30 days, these women agreed, and 3 different groups at 3 different times agreed to take this product for 30 days. And every day I would send them something reminding them to take this product, and then they would take it. And the agreement was they were to tell me everything that was going on as far as the changes. And what I was doing, I documented their changes. Now, no women knew what the other was doing. Everybody was reporting their changes to me, and I was documenting it. It is incredible. We had women at their hot flashes ending like 7 days. Some took 2 weeks. A lot of women got their energy back. A number of women were able to sleep better. Some were able to have better passes. And then my favorite story, one of the ladies, and it's funny to us, but she had lost her libido. She had lost her sex drive. It was a problem in her marriage. So she called me back. I got my libido back. I got my libido back. She was so excited. And so one of the things that I have been doing is to ensure that women have what they need. And let's go to the next slide. Another help that is, can I have the next slide, please? Another help for women has been this product here. It's a Manawise organic granola. If you're battling with the hot flashes, the night sweats, the energy, the mood swings, the brain fog, lack of focus, if that's disrupting your life, this granola is designed to act like medicine in a woman's body. And for those of you who are interested in any of them, you can, my number is on, I don't know if you can take a photo of this, 439-3242. We can speak afterwards, because I'm gonna try and quickly go through this last part. If I can have the next screen, please. A lot of women also deal with joint issues. What happens is estrogen also acts like a painkiller in a woman's body. We often talk about how a woman could endure so much pain, have a baby and all that, and men are like crybabies. Estrogen literally is our God natural painkiller. And estrogen protects our joints. It reduces inflammation. And when the estrogen drops, that's why women would have it in their back, their neck, the legs, etc. I just did a session about 2 weeks for Church of God of Prophecy, and I had this lady. She came to the session. She was in so much pain, her knees and her legs. And she told me she was in pain. So I said, okay, get a bottle of water. And the same product here we have, the turmeric and the ginger. I had to put a half teaspoon of both of them in the bottle. And I said, drink it now. 11:47 that night, my phone is ringing, nearly midnight. And I didn't answer my phone. I'm like, who is calling me this time of the night? Early that morning, the phone rings again. It's the lady six. She said, "Do you know that worked?" And she was just so excited. So I had to forgive her for calling me Nelly Midnight. But one thing I tell women is that there is help. Can I have the next slide, please? And I want to quickly go through the skin changes that many women don't understand. On average, during the first 5 years of menopause, women lose 30% of their skin elasticity. And for the next 20 years, we lose about 2%. That's why women start getting all of this hair around here, the dry skin, the aching, itching skin, the wrinkles, the fine lines, the thin skin. Can I go? Can you do the next slide? This, my masseuse in Grand Bahama. Can you do the next slide, please? And I want you to see her. I want you to look at the before slide. Look at her eyes. No, the next before, this one before, the first one, where we can see her eyes. I want you, while she's getting it, I want you to look at her eyes before this recapture oil. Look around her eyes at all of the lines using the recapture oil. Now look at her eyes 3 months after using the recapture oil. And I am showing this because so many women initially tell women, yes, there is. And when you look at the bottom part of her face, you will see that her face has begun to plump up again, because when we go into menopause, we lose the collagen. Look at the first before recapture. Look at how her skin was sagging. 1 month after recapture, look at it. Look at how in the first before how she had the lines coming down from her fig that begins to happen. Look at 1 month after. Look at 3 months after. This is the same woman. And this recapture oil put that natural collagen back in our skin that we will. Now we are at 6:40, so that if you have any, can I see the next slide? One of the things, there's so many things that go on with a woman. When it comes us, our vagina, area, etc. And when postmenopausal women stop having periods completely, they have a lot of women don't have that protection that they normally would have had. So they have this constant UTIs. And I help women with, can I do the next slide? Okay, that's another example. Look at this woman's chin. These are women with real issues. Look at her before and look at her a month afterwards. Someone is saying they're missing large sections. Okay, 4393242, correct. Yes, and the next slide, please. There's so much more I can say about menopause. I am available to women. I do consultations. I work with women one-on-one. Sometimes men, the husbands come in. So many husbands say, now I help my wife. I come into business establishments. For those of you who work at business establishments, one of the biggest things I'm trying to get our organizations to understand is the effect of menopause. Just don't understand what's going on, more aware of what's going on menopause. So I do presentations to churches, groups, family groups. Mission is to educate the menopausal woman and to help her to understand what's coming. I want to deal with you ladies and you go into that transition, because if there's some things that we can do that you will go into that transition where it doesn't have to be as difficult for some of us, the rest of us who weren't prepared. I have a group called Menopause Survival Care. It's a private Facebook community. If you are interested in being a part of it, you can just go onto Facebook, request to join, and I will let you in. And like I said, there's a lot of information I put there, bits and pieces to help women navigate their journey. If you have any questions, I am open.
Ms. Lockhart, you have shared a whole lot of information and our chat has been buzzing. And we thank you so much for the information you shared just now. So we're going to begin our question and answer.
Okay, I'm hearing.
We're going to begin our question and answer session, and we'd ask that if persons put their questions in the chat group. I would have picked up 1 or 2 questions already. And so we're going to go ahead and start with those. So one of the questions in the chat was, will menopause spell the end of my sex life? You know, one thing
No.
was a decreased libido, decrease in sex drive. So obviously it can pose an issue in the marriage. So talk a bit about that for our persons. I know you were cutting in and out. So talk a bit about that for our persons that may have missed that segment.
Okay. Unfortunately, yes, some women are affected. And because of the decline of the estrogen, the vagina, like I said, nobody told us about that part, that menopause affects our vaginas. And so I have a big session in one of my, sessions on just dealing with that, the health of the vagina, because as women, we were not told. You know what our mothers told us? Just wash it. We don't understand that during this time, the vagina becomes, the skin becomes very thin. What I teach women is how to take care of the vagina. Hands, we moisturize it. Well, let me tell you, and I have an oil that I help men who are dealing with the itching and the burning, and they have issues with intimacy. And it's a natural oil. So women, it helps women with intimacy. It helps them with that itching and that burning. And women say it's a sweet itch, and you can tear off your skin because that can become very inflamed and irritable. Not every woman do have the issue with the low libido, but if you do, book a consultation with me, because every woman, your low libido, some women are for different reasons. Like some of my clients, they have low testosterone levels. That's why the libido becomes low. And I work with them to bring up their testosterone levels, because testosterone and the estrogen work together for a woman's sex drive. Some women, I put them directly on the maca, like you heard me say. And this works. I use only organic stuff, clean stuff. And what I try to do is do tests before I introduce it to the group of women. So yes, there is help Yes, it does happen. Now, not every woman deals with it. Most, yes, but there are women, I've met some women, their sex drive go through the roof. I have a client who she was taken advantage of because her libido was stuck on a relationship. She was taken advantage of because, her libido went the opposite way. That can happen as well.
Okay, thank you. Next question is, you spoke about some natural supplements that you have available in your store. Are there any other natural supplements out there that can help to that can be taken to help with the replacement rather than hormone replacements that we can use naturally? We heard persons would talk about soy products. Can you speak a bit about that? How does soy products affect balancing out those hormones without us having to take medication for it?
Hormones. Hormone replacement. First of all, nature has its own hormone replacement therapy. Believe me, God has done it. Again, and I want the ladies to get this. I put these women on the maca that I carry, the organic, clean maca. And my research shows women, in fact, I had a session, was a part of my research, and she spoke to the women, and she shared the research, and she shared how it was incredible how her symptoms diminished. And now, one of the things I want to be very careful about is that, again, with women, please give me a call. Don't just go on a product. I have had clients one of my clients, she went on her symptomology. I was like, well, it didn't work for her, but it worked for a friend. And no, your testosterone levels are high. You would never have a tendency to just go into the store and buy something. But again, every woman's group of symptoms, cocktail of symptoms. So not necessarily going into a store and purchasing something is is what to do. And that's me. And I'm telling you, women have said, I was dealing with this stuff 10 years, 17 years, 20 years. For the first time in my life, since it's gone away. And it's because I work with women with what's going on in their bodies, because you may have symptoms and your friend may have the exact 10 symptoms and some more. And if you take something that could trigger another set of symptoms or your symptoms. So again, for women, my number's here. You can reach out to me, text me 439-3242. And I can work with you. We have a delivery system, so we will deliver the products, but it's important that you go on the right thing. Some soy products are good. 90% of the soy products that come from the US is genetically modified. You do not want to put genetically modified foods in your body. These are where scientists have gone into the genes of our food and added another gene, either bacteria, a bacteria, a virus, a plant, or an animal. You don't want that. You want the natural thing that can go into your body that works symbiotically with your nature. God has done that. And so, yes, there are products. Like I said, 439-3242 is my number. Text me. Let me know what's going on, and I can work with you from there. Yeah, that's what I want to say. Yeah. Help is on the way. Yes. Help. One lady said in Grand Bahama, who interviewed me a couple of days ago, help, hope, and something else. Yes, it is here.
And the chat is burning up, Miss Lockhart. It is certainly buzzing. The questions are rolling in. So, big question, because this is a common procedure in the Bahamas. After persons would have met their parity, and I mean, they would have satisfied the amount of children, them and their husband, or even as a single lady, like, hey, I don't want any more kids, right? Let me get my tubes tied. I don't want any more kids. I don't want to take the birth control. I don't want to have the IUDs. I want to get my tubes tied. I want to be free. Does that put me into a perimenopausal period sooner rather than later? Ms. Lockett, are you still there? I think we may have a connectivity issue. I think our hostess internet may have dropped. She might have lost her signal. I want to just give her a few seconds to see if that's going to come back up, because that's a burning question. And we have several other burning questions for her.
Can't hear you. I don't know if I'm the only one who.
Yes. Now you're back. Did you hear the question?
No.
Okay, so the question was, if I want to be free, I've already satisfied with the amount of children that I have. Me and my husband don't want any more children. I decide that I don't want to do any birth control, no type of birth control. I don't want to be doing the rhythm. I don't want to be popping pills. I don't want to have a marina, anything of that nature. I want to be free. So of course, the next thing what is going to be recommended is a tubal ligation. So the question is, will that now send me into perimenopausal sooner rather than later?
Yep. Both the tubal ligation and the hysterectomy. I remember I was doing on one show, and it's an American lady. She was sharing with me, how once she did the tubal ligation, what happened to her. And unfortunately, her story was not a good story. Now, let me just say that everybody's story is not the same. But one of the things women have to be more conscientious about is that these decisions up front may be good, but you have to understand what's down the road 10 years, 20 years from now. And a lot of research are showing a number of things, even prolapse. I didn't even talk about the vaginal prolapse that some women have. A number of women who have the hysterectomy, not all, but research has been showing later on down in their life, they have a prolapse. And that's where the uterus, that's where you can see something coming out of the vagina. I had a client call me the other day in hysteria. Her mother was not well and they had to take care of her mom. They had no clue that she had a prolapse. So all they saw was this thing hanging down from her. They didn't know what to do. But it's a real issue. And like I said, a lot of women hide this stuff that's going on. But I would say to you, one of the things I've learned about the way God set things up, if God put it there, I promise you, it's for a reason. And when we take it out, just like with the sea and the ocean, we're having a lot of coastal flooding, etc., because we're beginning to dig up the coral, etc. When we begin to move what is there naturally, you must expect that there will be repercussions. And it's a decision to really think on, not just think on, but get the facts about. I tell women, go find a group Online, we have a lot of support group. Go find a group of women, support group that has done it. See how they're doing 1 year afterwards, 2 years afterwards, 5 years afterwards, 10 years. Hear what these women are saying, and you can make a better decision of, do I want to do it or not?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Another question that we're finding in the chat is, persons want to know, after we have taken these natural resources, and of course you would have spoken of some that you can take, right? To kind of, I guess, help us navigate through this inevitable phase in a woman's life. What else do you recommend besides taking the natural supplements to deal with menopause?
Okay. When I deal with my clients, I not only deal with supplements, I even deal with lifestyle. So many women are dealing with these symptoms, and they're triggering it, and they don't even realize it. I had a client the other day, and exercise, yes, exercise, because the brain releases the serotonin, but not all exercise is equal when it comes to menopausal women, because if you are putting on a lot of weight and cortisol, you have a lot of women who are not eating and exercising and putting on weight. They don't understand when the body is releasing cortisol, you're going to put on weight. And so if you're exercising and you're putting the body under stress, and the adrenal will release the cortisol and the adrenaline, because there is something that's triggering it. And stress can be environmental, physical, or emotional. It doesn't matter. And as long as the body's sensing stress, the adrenal gland will release that cortisol. And if you're running like crazy, like how I did, believe me, I know, I had the personal experience. If you're running and doing things that you used to do, it will put the body in a crisis mode. You will put on the weight. So exercise, not all exercise is equal. Doing a lot of weight, and I'm not talking about putting on muscles, but weight training is better. There's some exercises that HIIT is also better for us as menopausal women. So lifestyle is very important. A lot of the stuff we're eating are triggering menopausal symptoms. I mean, like crazy. I had a client who said to me one day, she said, Patrice, do you know, I had a presentation. I went up on stage, and the moment I went up on stage and started talking, I broke into hot sweats. She said, I was sweating like crazy. And so I said to her, so what did you do just before going on stage? She said, oh, I had a cup of coffee and I had a bagel and what. I said, oh, I said, you triggered that. You brought that on. And a lot of times we're doing a lot of things that will trigger our menopausal symptoms through what we're eating. So I teach women about food. I teach women how to make food act like medicine. Earlier in the presentation, there's a granola. Listen, every menopausal woman should be on that. It's something that's tasty. You're putting in phytoestrogen in your body. You're helping your body on a daily basis. And these are things I teach women. And then I tell women, stress and menopause is a poor marriage. Whether the stress coming from home, from work, from you exercising, however, from the children, it is a poor marriage. That's why women find themselves at this point, they're putting on so much weight, they're not eating, they're frustrated, etc. And then also another thing that I deal with women with is self-care. Women during menopausal years tend to be better caregivers than caretakers. They'll take care of the family, and usually during this time, they're dealing with children, older children. They're dealing with, they have older parents who are old, they have to help take care of. Many times they have mortgages to deal with. They get kids who have problems. They're having problems in the marriages, etc. And all these things help to create an emotional and psychological environment. I've had clients where they just go in rooms and shut up. and no one sees them. One lady stopped speaking for one entire month. Not one word she uttered. And I've seen a lot. I've seen where it would affect women physically, emotionally, and psychologically. And one of the things is, if a woman has had psychological issues, pre-existing an issue, there's a 99.9% chance she will have it during the menopausal years. So yes, there are things that you can do. The supplements, the lifestyles, all of that is what we work. Persons like me work with a woman to bring balance to her body, her soul, which is a mind, her emotions, her will, and her spirit, so that she can have balance. Because just how the hormones, I don't know if you can hear me. My
We
screen
can.
is, okay, my screen is so frozen.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm. So we've definitely looking at the different phases. You would have mentioned 3 phases of menopause, correct? And just based on the comments, I could tell you
Correct.
we have comments where we having persons who have not menstruated for 11 months, then boom, one day this period shows up just for one day, like a hi, I'm still lurking around, just one day, and then disappears for another 10 months and counting. On the other hand, we have a female who has been not having a period for a very long time, but she's still going through all of the symptoms for 65 months. So how do they determine when they're in this final phase of menopause? How do they determine that?
Listen here. First of all, a woman does not go into menopause until she's had 12 full months of not bleeding. On that day that she is 12 full months of not bleeding, she is in menopause. Now, let me just go, just before we go into menopause, our bodies go into do crazy stuff. Like for me, I stopped bleeding for 6 whole months. I thought and I was just rejoicing. After 6 months, my period came back on. I was so disappointed. I couldn't believe it. But I said, okay. Then it stopped again. My period stopped for exactly 6 months. Now, this time I thought, okay, finally I'm here. When my period came back on again after 6 months of stopping, I was like, you know what, Lord, whatever, whatever. And and during this time when the body's doing that, this is when you know you're on the last of the last of your eggs. And this is where it gets crazy, because some women think something's wrong with them. Sometimes women will bleed for 2-3 weeks at a time. It becomes interesting during this, but you're entering, then you're using it is no, it's not disheartening, Renaissance. It's disheartening.
Disheartening.
Well, you know what? Let me say during that time it is, because yeah. Let me tell you something. Why I'm a big advocate for menopause education. When I was younger, all I knew was change of life. I worked someplace in Grand Bahama where I saw these two ladies going through something, and they called it the change of life. I didn't know it was menopause. And at that time I was married. And I knew was that, boy, when I go through my change of life and I stop having periods, my husband and I are going to be swinging from the roof, having sex, and I don't have to worry. The kids can get out of the house, all of that stuff. And I always said, nobody told me about a menopause and what could happen. I thought I was just going to sail into the sunset and life is going to be perfect ever after. but I learned there's something called menopause. Yes, it can be at that point. Don't just take this information and keep it to yourself. Talk about it in your workplace. Tell your generation of women won't have to deal with what a lot of us have had to deal with, being unprepared.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lockhart. I don't see any other questions, so I take it that all the burning questions have been addressed. And if they have not, please shoot Bahama Health an email, because we'd be more than happy to be the liaison person, or feel free to book a consult with Ms. Patrice Lockhart, who can provide you with further information. But at this time, I'd like to invite Ms. Irene Pintard, who will give the vote of thanks and close out this evening's session.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank Ms. Lockhart, definitely myself first. That list of symptoms, I think I'm 50%, I don't know, I'm self-diagnosing myself today after today's session. But thank you so much for an awesome session. It was a lot of information to take in, as well as it made it open up, things that's happening, especially with females, things that's occurring and we're not aware of, and we just brush it aside as being tired or a little fatigue, or just overwhelmed or just too busy. But thank you so much on behalf of the VP of Bahama Health and the staff and the team of DocTalk. We'd like to thank you for an awesome session today. And definitely I'm certain you will get a lot of calls and a lot of new additions to your group from what we would have had you shared here today with us. So again, thank you, Ms. Lockhart.